So when I was actually in Washington this past Sunday, I met well, this interesting fellow named William Gibson. If you've read science fiction, you've probably come across him. He's the father of cyberpunk, right? He's thought through all the different ways that we're going to be evolving in the next 20, 30 years. And when you look back over the 20th century, he actually reverse engineered what he wrote about by looking through that history. So looking ahead, I thought it would be really interesting to think about how we are moving forward now and how we can understand where we live in this moment. So first mega trend, right? Everything's mobile. Second thing, smarter cities, right? We live in a gigantic city here. There are many more of them evolving all around the world. We won't know where all of them are. Certainly many of them will be in Asia. That will change the way we live, work, travel, etc. One of those ways will be smarter commuting, right? This is actually a visualization of data from London. Looking at the cloud of data moving around, we'll need better ways to understand where we are, who we're moving with, and mediate that through our friends. And that'll allow us to do all sorts of interesting things with our phones, with our cars, with our glasses, whatever it happens to be. We're living in this moment right now where we start to have browsers that allow us to see these glyphs, these animated things that are lying over our own meat space, as some might say. This stuff already exists in parts of the world. This is in Amsterdam. Someone can pull up their phone, they can browse over different parts of the world and start to understand different things about it depending upon what virtual eye they put on top of it. That's going to become much more commonplace. That's enabled by things like pervasive connectivity, right? This room right here is full of all kinds of radio signals banging around. We've got Wi-Fi all around the streets of New York. In DC, there's now free Wi-Fi provided through the fiber running underneath the streets. And of course, people with mobile broadband cards. One of the other places that was mentioned here in the evolution of cycling, that'll become a much bigger part of our lives, right? Bikes that are chargeable, bikes that are trackable, bikes that have the ability to navigate on their own to some extent. And then that brings in the second thought, this other father of science fiction or cyberpunk, Bruce Sterling, who came up with this wonderful old spine. Things that have their own trackable elements to them. You can scan them, they have elements, they live in own space and time, this place where they can be tracked and otherwise share their space. And that's something you can already see evolving, right? We live in the future, it's just not evenly distributed. Right? There are cities of spine that are already developing. People, places, things, objects, plants, pets, you name it. And we have the ability now to increasingly create spine, right? These are all QR codes. If you haven't seen them, these are just barcodes that you can scan into your phone, right? These are ways that you can create folksonomies, as David Weinberg would say over at the Berkman Center, ways that you can actually assign meaning to things. And it'll enter into our lives in sort of crazy or weird ways, right? Imagine having a relative whose gravestone is something that lives on, having the ability to have living memories when you walk around cities. Now, that's going to create all new kinds of challenges, right? Remember that wonderful presentation we just saw about biometrics and the ads that Tom Cruise was assaulted by? Well, there's a pretty good chance that we're going to start getting SMS messages that are targeting us anytime soon. There'll be all sorts of other things, and that is going to introduce great challenges for our brains that just have not really come up before. There's going to be information overload on levels we simply haven't had to deal with before when you start to get into augmented reality. And you'll need to find better ways to find the things. You'll need better filters, you'll need better browsers. This is Aurora, this is Mozilla's new web browser coming down the pike, right? The idea that there'll be a more improved interface that'll help us deal with all the things that we're supposed to track, all the places that we're supposed to be, all of the friends that we're supposed to know. Dunbar's number, 150 people, and yet how many people here follow more than 150 folks on Twitter? How many people here have more than 150 friends on Facebook or on LinkedIn or whatever the next social network happens to be? And the government and we will also need better ways to audit all that data. This is a mock-up created by Sunlight Labs down in Washington of augmented reality app to able to audit the data created by recovery.gov, which is this website which tracks the data, the spending of this gigantic stimulus bill. And by and large, we'll need better displays that share these things, especially when you consider things like the digital divide, people that don't have cell phones. This is a solar cloud located in London. Looks like you might have wanted to tweak that graphic a little bit. And better digital tools for open government. This is the first iPad app for a Senate. New York State Senate has an iPad app. You can look at all the videos, you can look at all the senators' profiles, you can browse the laws. This is the sort of thing you'll increasingly see in legislatures all around the world. And we'll need better platforms for people to self-organize. This is a map of Haiti. OpenStreetMap, all those little green dots are the refugee camps that people around the world mapped out, more or less in real time, and shared on the web so that rescue workers could know where people were.